It's time for this week's PrairieCast.
This week's PrairieCast is brought to you by Delta Dental of Iowa, who reminds you that you don't have to work for a big company to get big benefits. Delta Dental offers a dental plan to fit your needs, whether it is a single policy, one for your family, or one for the team at your startup. Visit deltadentalia.com to learn more about your many plan options.
To episode 77 of PrairieCast for March 6, 2012. I am Jeff Wood with Silicon Prairie News, and our panel today includes Brian Waller, the Iowa Economic Development Authority, who's joining us in studio, Danny Schreiber, our managing editor with Silicon Prairie News, who is joining us via Skype, and as always, my co-host Andy Brudkel of 48 Web and various other projects.
Yes. Hello.
Brian, welcome to the show. It's your first time joining us. Have you?
First time and long time viewer of the program, so happy to be here.
Presenting the on, I think
right.
one of the few PrairieCast guests that's worn a tie.
Happily overdressed. Thank you. Yeah.
No problem. And Danny, it's been a while since we've had you on the show, but welcome back. I mean, you and I talk all the time, but our viewers don't always get to see you, so welcome back. All right, we're in a little bit behind today. It's always an adventure as we get ready to start PrairieCast. So let's just go ahead and jump into the stories. First up, last week it was announced that social beauty store Bloom.com, which is based in Omaha, had closed a $5.4 million Series A round led by Capricorn Investment Group. Also disclosed in that post was that Capricorn will open an Omaha office, which will be led by Stephen George, who is a Nebraska native and a co-founder of the investment group, who recently moved back to the area. And Danny, it's one of the reasons I want to have you on today is because you wrote that story and have the source directly there. What's your take on this investment?
Yeah, sure. This is big news for the region on two fronts. One, you see a group of experienced entrepreneurs, veteran entrepreneurs, I'd say. This is their third go-around, Doug and Julie Malik. That's Doug Nielsen and Julie Malik. Doug serves as the company's chairman, and Julie serves as its CEO. And they're co-founders of the company. Previously, they had co-founded Hay Needle, and before that, giftcertificates.com. So first off, look who's leading the company, and there's something that's solid there. And I think that's what originally had attracted Stephen. In fact, he had said he came to Omaha. He wanted to meet the founders of Hay Needle, and here they were behind two new companies in Omaha. So initially, you have that storyline, and then also the investor, as I just mentioned, Stephen George. He's the co-founder of the Capricorn Group, Capricorn Investment Group, which is the investing arm. Actually used that term investing arms. Other reports have it, $5 billion under management. But what's important to understand is that this is really the investing arm. So it also means that money is allocated towards their movie production costs. I mean, Jeff Skoll has put money towards making Inconvenient Truth and Waiting for Superman, also towards his foundation. When it comes to venture capital, though, we listed some of the past investments, including Vitamin Water, Tesla Motors, TrueCar. So here we have a startup that's just a couple of years, not even 2 years old yet, gets investment from a notable venture capitalist.
Yeah, I think Capricorn is not a name that I knew necessarily like Union Square Ventures, and we talked about with Waller recently. But yeah, huge funds under management from Capricorn. And as Danny just said, it's not just going into other companies, but going into lots of different areas. But exciting to have some of that money coming this way and being utilized here in the region. Brian, ask you a question. You work in kind of this space on behalf of the state of Iowa. Sure. Having this fund now with an office in Omaha, what does that mean to the state of Iowa, and obviously right across the river, having some folks like this looking around?
Well, the bottom line is it's a huge deal, really, for the region. And that's part of the beauty and the brilliance of Silicon Prairie News, I think, about branding this as a region. And so, sure, it's in a different state, but absolutely for the Midwest and to be a neighboring state, it's a big deal for us to have folks like Capricorn setting up an office in Omaha. And I think it just reinforces the attractiveness of this Silicon Prairie Valley, or Silicon Prairies, for creativity, entrepreneurship, and a place where you can find good ideas, good people, and good investments. And that's indicative of Capricorn moving to Omaha, and we're excited.
It's good to hear. ask Andy maybe you this question. So this is almost the exact same amount of dollars as USV invested into Dwolla, but the Dwolla news was everywhere,
Right.
and it seems like nobody really picked this up other than us, and I think maybe the World Herald pushed our story as well. But why is this less exciting, it seems, or hasn't caught the hype that the Dwolla funding has?
You've already mentioned that it's USV. I mean, just Fred blogging about it is going to spawn this massive storm of traffic around that story. So, I mean, anytime USV invests, you have TechCrunch picking it up, and then it just disperses throughout the internet. So I think that's kind of one of their qualities as an investor, coming in to a startup saying, not only are we going to give you money, but once you sign with us, the PR storm hits. So I think just having USV behind them is what got all the attention.
Yeah. Danny, do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually think it's on the opposite side. I think Dwolla can take full credit for the attention and hype it gets, and the guy behind that is Jordan Lampy.
Yeah.
Dwolla tells their story better than anyone else in this region tells their story. And that's just it. They're telling a story. You want to be a part of that. You want to hear what's next. Bloom, frankly, hasn't concerned themselves with that. Instead, they've really been heads down, focusing on building their company, which Dwolla is as well. But Dwolla is more dedicated to being public about it and having a user base that's a part of a community. Now, if we're in the fashion industry, you might say, wow, this funding, Bloom.com sure seems to be everywhere these days. But here we are, four gentlemen talking about a beauty fashion store, which I should also note, this isn't just a store. This is the start of what they want to see become a social network around beauty. And that's one of the things that attracted Steve and George to this investment. It was a group of people being passionate about beauty coming together online. And that's what they've been interested in before. Actually, it's really neat to see this is a venture capital firm with experience in social media coming into an area where there aren't a whole lot of social media startups that are succeeding and saying, we want to invest in them. And Bloom.com has proven to be, that I can know of, most successful in that area. And I can say they've just started to. I'm not totally blown away by anything they've done so far on Bloom.com, besides some sharing of what kind of products they use, but and really integrating into Facebook. But there's a lot more down the road I think you'll see from them, and that is indicated by this kind of investment.
It's great points, Danny, and the comparison to Dwolla, it's interesting to think about it from either side. These companies are about equivalent sizes, and I don't know about revenue because neither one shares that, but both, Bloom said they have about 20 employees. I think last time I heard Dwolla had 17, looking to add 10 to 15 this year for Bloom. That's about what Dwolla, I think, is trying to hire now. So they're really equivalent. Both had a $5 million investment recently. Other thoughts on Bloom? I mean, they... was it January, I think, that they announced that they had reached 100,000 users in the first 6 months, which I'm not sure what Dwolla's last user count or what they, but they seem to be equivalent companies.
Dwolla was at about 75,000, I think 80,000 when we last covered them.
Okay. And then the other thing that Bloom has going for them is that this $5 million actually brings them up to $10 million of total investment, which is more than Dwolla has. But it's just been interesting to watch these two companies, and really exciting companies for the region, but how they're being covered differently, or how the hype around them is certainly different.
One thing that Danny talked about in his article that was interesting, that the focus of Bloom was on revenue. And so I found that to be an interesting point, and you don't see that a lot with startups all the time, but the focus on revenue obviously was something attractive for Capricorn.
Yeah, Steven said that, right? That rather than build a user base, well, in Danny's article, but rather than build a user base and then try to monetize it, they were going to monetize from day one and then grow the user base, which I think is what...
Steven,
or go ahead, Danny.
Oh, go on.
And I would say, I think that's been, Dwolla's always had that, because they're not a social network necessarily, but they are a social connected platform, and obviously they've had a fee for every transaction, so they've always been growing their revenue as well. But what were you going to say, Danny?
Well, I think with Dwolla, we're seeing, it's been hinted at that there are more ways of revenue to come. You saw it with the instant launch, and that was a $3 monthly charge, or a $5 monthly charge, or the late fee. Then you have other opportunities to come when you look at the kind of data that they're using with their merchants. Bloom.com is opposite there is that right away they wanted to get into the social space, but instead of attracting users, they thought, how can we, which was to Brian's point, generate revenue with those users? How can we? It was kind of the first step, and which is what Stephen really appreciated, was that was the first step, not the second step. And you talk about really no one picking this up. And I haven't. I've seen some some beauty. Excuse me, not social beauty. Some beauty blogs and fashion blogs pick it up. But this wasn't also something that, like in the venture capital world, there wasn't. Dwala's round was oversubscribed. Ben was out there for 4 months, coast to coast. Hey, hitting up certain investors. Business Insider writes there's 400 individuals investing. There wasn't 1 mile traveled by Julie Malik to secure this funding. All of the pitching was done in her offices in Omaha. In fact, that's where Stephen came. And so the complete opposite with regards to, nonstop knocking on doors to this investment. Actually, Julie told me it was a little bit earlier than they expected.
Oh, really?
So do you think that has a lot to do with their track record?
Absolutely. Yep. Stephen was ready to meet when he came in, ready to meet the founders behind Hay Needle. We're actually going to be looking at, we are going to be doing an update on Hay Needle here in the next month. They just celebrated their 10-year anniversary, and they have grown, according to them, they've grown in the past couple of years. They've added a flash sales site to what they're doing. And Bloom.com is actually headquartered in one of the wings of Hay Needle's building. So now they're completely separate companies. The original investment in Bloom came from the two co-founders, so Doug and Julie, and they also had angel investment from the area as well. So this is a $10 million capital that they've been able to raise, and for what we know, that's all been from Nebraska.
And Doug and Julie have both exited Hay Needle, right? Like they have cashed out, or do they still have equity? I know that Doug is now working again for Hay Needle.
I'm not sure of that.
Okay.
I know they both still are involved. I believe Doug is the CEO of Hay Needle, and I believe Julie is involved, but I'm not for sure on their status with them. And they do have, they have ownership in the company, and that's a company that also raised money from the coast, so Sequoia and Insight Ventures. So that's one from Silicon Valley and one from New York.
And a couple of people from the chat room, Brad Dwyer says that he last heard that Dwell, I think, had 80,000 users, so, somewhat on par with the 100,000 users that Bloom has. And Justin Shane said that having the Hay Needle Net Shops, which was Hay Needle's original name, Net Shops, they rebranded a year or two ago, in the background puts them in a different situation than Dwell, which I think is what you guys just illustrated. So very interesting there. Bloom is something that we have covered. I think we've talked about on PrairieCast 3 or 4 times in the last year or two. Yeah. Continue to follow that. It's always an interesting one to talk about because it tends to be a bunch of dudes on the show, and it's a beauty product platform. But we hear good things, and it's exciting to see what's going on there. And if I were a professor writing for the Harvard Business Review, I'd love to see a case study on how these two different companies like Dwala and Bloom have developed and tracked that over time. So
and to Brian's point too, Stephen's excited to. He had given a kind of off the record talk at a Cornstalks event a couple weeks ago, and this isn't about investing in Nebraska for him. This is very much a Midwest focus. So I know he's already been looking around the states, and is excited about what he sees in investing here. And just as he said in that story, this was a deal that he thought if it was located in Silicon Valley, they would have been funded. It would have been already made at this point, and so he called it a gem for them to find.
Yeah, he did say that he felt like that company could have been anywhere, right? East Coast, West Coast, and Europe, like they're that level of company. And I don't know if how much this overlaps with your activities, but maybe you and Steven need to chat about some of the companies in Iowa that you're working on.
Yeah, hook me up, Danny. Let them know. Look at Iowa. Look at Iowa.
I think that his contact information is out there, and he is doing that. He's doing quite a bit of networking in the area, and I think we want to cover them more. If you go to Capricorn Investment Group's website right now, you'll actually find that there's nothing there. It's just a logo, and you need a username and password. They aren't quite ready to kind of deliver their full message. We've been asking Stephen for an interview and kind of diving into it. We're going to do that in the coming months. But he's definitely somebody at Cornstalks. He said, if you think you want to chat, you reach out. He lives and resides in Omaha, but travels quite a bit.
And Danny, Capricorn is not just investing locally. They're looking locally, but they're investing nationally. And we also published a story on, is it Yammer that they just invested in? The enterprise
same
kind of
day.
Twitter.
That news came out, yeah.
Okay. And do we know how much their investment into Yammer was?
Do not. Round was $85 million, and they were listed as one of the four new investors in that round.
So exciting company to cover. I'm glad they have a presence here locally. We'll continue to track them now that they're not only investing here, but have a presence, and we'll for sure report on what Capricorn is up to in the future. What do you want to thank today's sponsor, PrairieCast, Delta Dental of Iowa. When it comes to taking care of your smile, rely on a company that you can trust. Fact is, more Iowans trust their smiles to Delta Dental. Whether you're looking for a dental policy for you, your family, or your startup, visit deltadentalia.com to learn more about your many plan options. Thank you again, Delta Dental, for supporting Silicon Prairie News and entrepreneurs in Iowa. All right, on to the Fast Four. We're keeping score. Do you have your...
I'll go grab some.
Okay, keep score on the Fast Four. As everybody remembers the way the Fast Four works, I'm going to read a statement, then ask a question. Brian, Andy, who's off camera, and Danny will each answer, and I'll award points based on what it is your answer. Andy will now keep track of what's going on, and at the end we'll announce a winner. You excited for this?
Get it on. Let's do
right.
this.
All right, here we go. Item 1, dude, where's my funding? Business Insider, a New York City-based blog that has given considerable coverage to Dwolla in the last 6 months, ran a story this week that cited unnamed sources who had told them that Iowa's own Ashton Kutcher is a secret investor in Dwolla. Earlier this year, the Des Moines Register's Lynn Hicks wrote about Kutcher investing in Silicon Valley and included the line, "Dude, where's my funding? How about sending some love to entrepreneurs in your home state, Ashton?" Now here's the question. What is your best Ashton Kutcher or Dwolla movie pun? Brian, you said you want to go first on this one.
Yeah, let's do this. So I think of Dwolla. Obviously, you think of Ben Milne. And Ben, I think, does the work of 2.5 bends.
2.5 bends. That is very good.
That's good.
Oh, that's good. Eesh.
All right, Danny, are you up next?
Yeah. So Kutcher came out with I actually haven't seen the movie, but I don't know if it's quite that good. And instead of no strings attached, I think this one's called New Strings Attached.
New strings attached?
New strings attached. As in now we've got the funny. We've got the strings attached between Kutcher and Iowa.
All right.
I got nothing.
You got nothing?
No.
I told you, I spent like an hour on IMDb today. I came up with nothing.
All right.
I'll
Well,
take the 0 on this one.
you get the 0. We'll just go ahead and award you that too. Danny, my thought when I wrote this question was actually the exact same movie, but instead of no strings attached, I was thinking of $10 having no fee, and it's no fees attached was what I came up with. That was mine. So I think 2.5 bends is by far my favorite. So you get 3
bends.
points.
All right.
Danny gets 2. Andy gets 0
Great.
for that one. All right. Number 2, Eric Schmidt, comedian. Following his keynote address at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, Spain this week, Google's executive chairman addressed the Google Fiber project in Kansas City this way, according to what CNET wrote. He showed a talent for stand-up comedy when asked about Google Fiber, the effort to bring super-fast fiber optic internet access to the denizens of Kansas City, Mo, and Kansas City, Kansas. When asked just what are the project's implications, he quipped, "People will want to move to Kansas City, Kansas," which got a good laugh from the crowd. So here's the question, and we'll go ahead and start with Danny this time. Was Schmidt putting down the Silicon Prairie when he said this, or was he just stating the obvious? Or something else?
Actually, I think he was stating the obvious. And your impression, I have to say, was a little off. And that is what really drives home the point. If you go back and watch the video, you'll find that he delivers it in a very, very sincere manner. In fact, a reporter from the Kansas City Business Journal wrote about this exact kind of punchline, and it was within a day she received calls from both the government of Kansas and Google saying that it was not a knock at all. In fact, it was if you watch his speech, it's clear he's sincere, is what a Google spokesperson told her.
So my impression was first time my impressions have been critiqued on PrairieCast. Brian, what are your thoughts?
Go ahead, Danny.
That was just. That was just. It was really. I think we all are making a better punchline than it really is.
All right, we're making a better punchline than it is, he says.
My only view of it was, you are who you are. You got to own it sometimes. You know, I'm a state bureaucrat sitting here in a tie. I got to own it. You know, I can't come in here in a t-shirt and try to act like I'm somebody else. I am who I am, and I think being from the Midwest, you got to own it. You got to represent it. You got to, and on my end, I'm trying to sell it. So if we're flyover country, they're missing something then.
Oh, that's the next one. But as far as Schmidt said, is he a comedian? Was he trying to make a joke about Kansas City, or was he being just stating the obvious?
He was stating the obvious.
All right, stating the obvious.
Yeah.
And you, Andy?
Definitely stating the obvious.
Yeah.
All right, so it sounds like everybody is agreed there. So let's put everybody at 2 for that one. Number 3, what's in a name? And you foreshadowed this one.
You gave me 2, and I answered it incorrectly.
First, we learned about the Flyover 50, which is Kansas City-based Five Elms Capital's effort to recognize the 50 fastest-growing companies in the Midwest. And now we're hearing about Kansas City-based Think Big Partners Flyover Field Trip, where they're taking area companies out to Silicon Valley, Boston, and New York for a multi-day pitch fest in front of their VCs. Question: Flyover isn't really thought of as a positive term, at least to me. Are these Kansas City groups who are starting to use it, will they be able to change its connotation? And Andy, you get to start.
No, I don't think so. I think it's still negative. In the context that they were using it, though,
Right.
I'll let them slide, but I don't really want the region to be called that by any means.
And they will not be able to change this, or they will?
I doubt it. No.
No? Danny?
Yeah, I don't think it will change the connotation at all. These aren't the most press-worthy things that are taking place. Especially the Flyover Field Trip isn't something I think will garner a lot of press. Flyover 50 will be something that I think will be more public of it. But really, the name to me, it becomes kind of a hey, me too. And Flyover itself will still be seen as really what it represents of flying over these cities.
Okay. Brian?
Well, you can rewind the webcast and use my last answer for this answer. But, you look at historically sometimes negative connotations towards a group of people. If those group of people just kind of own it and take back that term, it becomes less divisive and less powerful. So perhaps if we own that term a little bit, we can take away from some of the stinging effects that it might have on us. So
you think they will be able to change it?
I think they will.
Oh, good question. See, for me, this falls into like Animal House logic. It's that you can't haze our pledges, only we can haze our pledges,
Right,
that type of thing. Like it's all, and we can make fun of ourselves, but don't you say it, that type of thing. So I'm going to say that no, they're not going to be able to change it. So let's give Danny and Andy get 2. You get 1, but I appreciate the effort. And that sounds like a good like state of Iowa way to say it.
That's
like,
what I got to do.
Just embrace it.
My
But
boss is watching.
there you go. I think it's great that they're doing these type of things. I don't know that I would use the word flyover. I remember on the stage at Big Omaha 2010, Dennis Crowley from Foursquare tweeted that before he left, he said, my first trip to flyover country, and he took a lot of grief from the people in Omaha before he got there. So people are a little picky on that one. All right.
Hey, Southwest comes to Des Moines now.
Yeah.
Southwest does come to Des Moines, so you don't have to fly over.
No excuses not to stay.
Okay, number 4, last one. The Woz is coming. Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak will be speaking here in Des Moines on Thursday as part of DMAC West Innovation Week. Tickets were free, but they disappeared in under 10 minutes, according to KCCI.com. Woz is credited as the designer of Apple's Apple I and Apple II machines, as well as a heavy influencer on what became the first Macintosh. Here's the question, Brian, you can start.
Okay.
What was the first computer that you ever owned?
Well, I'll answer this in a 2-part.
Okay.
The first being from Sioux City, Iowa, born and raised on the banks of the Missouri River in a beautiful place called Sioux City. The first computer I owned was a Gateway 2000.
Okay.
If you're familiar with that company up in that neck of the woods. And to add to my score here, the Iowa Economic Development Authority is a proud sponsor of iWeek and bringing Woz in. So I want to give the guy who's keeping score the last ticket to see Steve Wozniak. So here's a ticket to see Steve Wozniak on Thursday, and remember that when you're scoring here in a minute. So congratulations, you got the last ticket.
That is very awesome.
You bet.
I appreciate that. That's bribery.
It might be,
but I don't know that we've had that before.
Got to pull out all the stuff.
That's great. So 3 points for Brian. Okay,
Right.
Danny, what was the first computer that you ever owned?
Pass. I don't even. There's nothing to go against that.
Nothing.
So we bought a custom-built computer from Kempsky Computer Store in Newell, Minnesota. That was running a Windows 95. I think sometime in the early 90s. And that's really, I think I remember the Windows system the most of that. And we had really a tower. I mean, I really. That was something that I wish I had the Apple II or Apple I. The first Apple I had was a PowerBook G4 in 2003.
All right.
A Radio Shack TRS-80, also known as the Trash 80, software ran on a cassette tape.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
All right, we had the Apple IIe, actually, in the mid-'80s. That was the green on black monitor, if everybody remembers that, with the big, 5-inch dual floppy disk drives. I played such great games as Oregon Trail. Filed third grade reports with AppleWorks, if you remember that. I think it was the only one that actually printed out something. And probably weren't worth anything on the reports itself, but got good grades for having them computer printed. Right. So, all right, you get the 3 because you bribed me, and we'll be very open with that, at least for the Fast 4. Right. Let's give both of you guys 2 points then, because I like your answers, and we'll let you go ahead and total this up. Oh, all right. The winner is Brian. See what bribery gets you? If not for the bribe, you wouldn't have got that. So 9, 8, and 6. Danny, you were second place. So I appreciate everybody participating in the Fast Four. The winner, we decided last week, gets a Think Iowa T-shirt because we have some left over. So don't leave before I get you that. Yeah, but that was fun. So more on the Fast Four next week. Justin Shane said he had the Texas Instruments TI-99 for his in the chat room.
That counts?
That counts, I guess. Yeah. All right. So next topic, South by Southwest is this weekend. We're taking the majority of our team from Silicon Prairie News down there. Brian, you're going for the first time.
Yep.
Andy, not going.
Skipping, yes.
Skipping, but you've been several times before.
Yeah. With the baby, I had to choose South by or Big Omaha. So.
Then you chose Big Omaha. All right, that's a good call too. That's a little bit of bribery. Remember that next week on the Fast Four. We are hosting a cereal bar on Sunday at 10 o'clock at the Halcyon, I believe is how you pronounce it, the name of the lounge, with the help of 3 tremendous sponsors. And this is one of the reasons I want to have you on today. The Iowa Economic Development Authority is one of our sponsors, as is the Greater Des Moines Partnership and the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce. So I just wanted to kind of end the show today previewing what South by is going to be. I think a lot of people are interested in this. A lot of people have heard about this conference. And talk about what the Silicon Prairie is doing down there. And we try to really capture this every year when we go. There is a page on our site that I don't know if it's live yet. Danny, you can tell me if it is. But you go to Silicon Prairie News /SXSW, and that'll give you our roundup of what's going on. And looking at Danny's face, it's not live yet, so you get a preview if you're watching PrairieCast. Just about live. So let's go ahead and start. Let's start with the panels that are going on there. And Danny, you're presenting. So tell us about what you're doing at South by.
Yeah, really excited about what we have ahead of us. So I brought together what I call a regional tech blog panel. I brought a representative from Technically Philly, tech blog in Philadelphia, Silicon Florist, tech blog in Portland, and Tech.mn, a tech blog in Minneapolis. And then moderating our panel is Danielle Morel of Twilio, who used to be the editor of a tech blog in Seattle called Seattle 2.0. And so now she's since moved to Silicon Valley and has a different point of view of meant to run a tech blog outside of the center of innovation. And now she's in the middle of it, was the first employee of Twilio. So excited to have her kind of prod each of us to talk about why the regional tech blog is important, how they exist in our businesses and startups themselves, and then what the larger tech media landscape is missing out on that the regional tech blogs are catching. So that's really the focus. I think it couldn't be more timely with what we've seen lately with TechCrunch and the turnover blogs, Pando Daily rising up. And then so 2 recent stories out of our tech blog of Douala. We got to cover them 3 years ago when they launched, and then Bloom.com, we were able to break that news of their funding. So it's really, I think, is an encouraging time for this sector, which I call the regional panel.
Nice, and we are having a little bit of Skype connectivity troubles there, Danny, so I think we got the gist of what you're saying. If I was Andrew Warner, we would tell him to reset his Skype right now. But other panels that I know are going on, I know that there's kind of a true Silicon Prairie panel with Ben Milne, Bo Fishback from Zarley, and Jeff Slabotsky all on one panel talking, is it Field of Dreams, kind of like building a company in the Midwest. I don't remember the exact title of that panel. So that'll be an exciting one. I know that there's one on building communities that has Nick Seguin from the Kauffman Foundation in Kansas City, past PrairieCast guest. Our friend Shane Reeser as well, who a former Iowan left to go to Seattle with Startup Weekend, and was just back this weekend actually to facilitate the Startup Weekend event in Des Moines. They're both on that communities panel. Any others, Danny, that you've seen down there?
Yeah, Ben actually ended up joining a panel called Internet Bubble, the sequel, 1999 all over again. That is a panel with venture capitalists out of New York, and then also a writer from TechCrunch. And there's also one, actually I think you hit on it, which is the one with Bo, Ben, and Jeff from our team. And then there is the senator from Kansas who has and I need to get his name, but who has a panel all to himself. Senator Jerry Moran will be speaking on encouraging innovation and empowering entrepreneurs. That's a Sunday afternoon. So neat to see a representative from legislature coming and going out of South by Southwest and giving a talk down there.
And I guess one other to mention, Ben Silverman from Pinterest, I believe, former Des Moines native, is speaking. He's doing a keynote, I think, on Tuesday afternoon after I leave, unfortunately, so I won't get a chance to see it. But that'll be exciting when I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in that. Kerps mentions in the chat room that Shane Reeser is not only formerly of Des Moines, but he's moving back to Omaha soon, so he will become a Silicon Prairie resident again. I think in May is when that's happening. So. Brian, it's your first time. What are you most excited about seeing down there?
Our involvement is twofold. One is my specific role in our business development team is to be in the industry of information technology. So South by Southwest Interactive seems to be the epicenter of that field. But this is part of a larger targeted marketing strategy that our department has. Here in studio today, I have a colleague of mine from our marketing department, Kathy Anderson. So her and her team have put out a really good marketing plan. And so from my perspective, I'm there to listen, I'm there to learn, I'm there to be an advocate for Iowa specifically. With economic development, the communities are paramount. And so I'm excited to go with the Greater Des Moines Partnership. They do a great job, so they'll be involved. And really, another reason we're involved is Silicon Prairie News. I mean, you guys have shown that you do things right. You do Big Omaha, think Iowa. Your professionalism has always been top notch. And so when we had the opportunity to partner with you guys and to kind of hitch our wagon to you for this event with the cereal bar and kind of sell Iowa with the Greater Des Moines Partnership, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us to get in there in this region and make the state of Iowa a real player and help you guys out.
And thanks again for doing that, certainly. And also, not to mention, Greater Omaha Chamber does cover like Council Bluffs, so like you're actually a great tie between the three partnerships or three sponsors that are helping partner with the event. Cereal Bar is Brittany Macio's idea from our team, so make sure that we credit Brittany, who's our event planner, event coordinator person. And we've done a party the last 2 years, had a lot of fun at the party, but kind of spurred on by GroupMe's grilled cheese grill last year of, hey, let's do something different. And like one way to get attention for what you're trying to promote, in this case, Iowa and the Silicon Prairie, is to do something that stands out. And I've not really heard of this cereal bar concept before. And so it'll be good. And I imagine Sunday at 10 o'clock, a lot of people will be looking for coffee and breakfast. And we're right on, is it 6th Street? Like right on the main strip there in Austin. So it will be a good time for sure. And I think there'll be a lot of people there. Certainly had a ton of people pre-register.
Yeah, right. Actually, 550 people have pre-registered so far. So
yeah,
nice.
It's proved to be quite popular. Although, can you guess what the attendance number was last year? Any of you guys? I've actually got the exact number in front of me.
For the Silicon Prairie party or for South by?
No, it's for South by Interactive as a whole.
Do you guys know the number?
10,000.
10,000?
22,000.
22. I would say 20. That was my thought.
Oh, it was close to 19,364.
Nice. Nice.
Wow.
So we just had a small chunk of that. We got to get some more coming in.
Yeah.
But quite the number. That actually was the highest attended of the 3 festivals that take place and are a part of South by Southwest.
Very good. Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. You can follow everything that companies around here are doing while they're down there on Silicon Prairie News. Michael is there on a press pass and will be writing the whole time about what companies are doing. Daniel will be writing. Lots of us. I think we also have guest posts that we're going to roll out from different companies that are down there about what their experiences are while they're down there. You can follow a Twitter list on our website of everybody that we know that's going to be down there, so you can see like a scrolling feed of what people are tweeting while they're at South by and see like what the region is doing in Austin, and as well as see those panels and when to go see them for when people are presenting. That'll all be on that siliconprairienews.com/SXSW. We did that last year. It worked out well and are continuing as well. Andy, anything you're unfortunately going to miss, like that you're looking forward to? Like I leave you out of the South by conversation.
You know, it's a great time being down there, but I'm going to try to hit it up again next year, I think.
Next year? Yeah. You gotta stop getting married and having babies around South by time. Yeah, that takes a big chunk out of your budget. Yeah, so all in all, very exciting. We leave Friday. I think you leave early Friday as well. So that's when you'll see everything kick in, and it is a great time and certainly an inspirational event for the rest of the year, I think, for a lot of the folks that do go.
You have 2 more connections that'll be a part of South by Southwest from the Silicon Prairie. One ag local company that was founded in Overland Park, Kansas, currently is in the NUMMI Accelerator out in San Francisco. They are going to be part of the South by Southwest Accelerator, and they're pitching their idea on Monday. So that's one to watch out for. And that accelerator at South by really gets them in front of a lot of both good investors, but also good press and connections. And then Blake Miller of Think Big Partners in Kansas City is aboard. Actually, it's already taken off, the Las Vegas Startup Bus. This is Startup Bus, something we had some interest from our region, but it didn't come through for our region. So Blake ended up hopping on board the bus that is leaving from Las Vegas. So those are a couple more storylines to pay attention to. And I think from our early numbers, it looks like we have a record number of attendees from the region headed down. I know individuals from RecBob, Bloom.com, and then some other area startups are going down that I know haven't been down before.
I think Emma from Tickley's going. Different folks around. I'm not sure who else is coming from Des Moines, but should certainly be interesting. I think Ben and Jordan from Dwala are going to be there for sure. Obviously, Ben's presenting. I think Jordan's going as well. Yeah, it will be a good time. Like we're still a little bit not sure what's going to happen with South by as we get close to it, but you'll see that stuff roll out in the next couple days on Silicon Prairie News. Brad Dwyer says RecBob is actually taking an RV down, so that should be interesting.
Yeah, RecBob will make, on Thursday I'll have a list of 5 Silicon Prairie startups to watch. I put this out last year. I've got it queued up again for Thursday. RecBob will be on that list. I think they're going to be doing some fun things down there, and hopefully may have kind of a hint at what they've got in the works.
Very good. And RecBob, for those that don't remember, is a Startup Weekend Iowa City project that started there and since has built a team and is pushing forward beyond Startup Weekend. Iowa City and going full time. Should we transition to the stat of the week?
Speaking of Startup Weekend.
Speaking of Startup Weekend.
Yes, this week's stat of the week is 47, and that is the number of ideas pitched Friday night at the Pitchfire session at Startup Weekend Des Moines. 16 of those actually got selected and were pitched again at the final pitch session on Sunday. And first place went to Doodle Cloud App, second place went to My Kitchen Genie, and third place went to Road Rageous. Interesting note, everyone that pitched this are all existing experienced entrepreneurs here from town, which I thought was, or not from town, I guess Royce is in Kansas City. But
Royce, yeah, past PrairieCast guest. He's a contributor for us in Kansas City.
So
his team came in second.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting. Did you get a chance to take a look at Startup Weekend? I didn't put this on your prep sheet, but
I have not yet. No.
All right.
John was telling me a little bit about it because he was one of the winner, correct?
So Doodle Cloud took home the top prize, and Matthew Smith, who is Real Estate Fan Pages, may remember him from, they won the local Think Big, Grow Here.
Dream Here, bro.
Dream Big Grow Here contest, which I think
like
the finals are coming up in the next couple days at the Entrefest for that. But they were the local winner, and now they're competing statewide. So Matthew did this, and Doodle Cloud is an app where you can take a picture of the clouds and kind of save those moments when you say, hey, that cloud looks like a bunny. Draw it on there. It was all about his kids and kind of working with his kids and preserving those memories. Brought his kid to the final pitch and referenced his kid several times, and she, right on cue, was like, that was me. So it was very cute. All in all, I thought Startup Weekend was great. I was there on Friday night and saw the beginning of it, and then had to leave town for the weekend, but came back and saw the final pitches. And we've been talking a lot today about how much that event has grown from the first one back in 2009, the first one we had in Des Moines, and it's amazing how improved and better, and how not just the event running better, but the pitches and the products that are coming out of it are so much better than they were that first year and every year since. Yeah,
and all three of these first three had prototypes built by Sunday, demos. It was pretty phenomenal.
And yeah, so check those out. Doodle Cloud app is the first one. My Kitchen Genie is Royce's, that was second. Road Rageous is Brad Dwyer's, who was third. And I think Brad committed, $1,000 on the Spotio project plus 14.5 burritos.
Yes, he kept tweeting, we're already funded, so come help us out.
Yeah, and they went into debt because they didn't have a designer on their team, so they brought in Amanda Morrow and paid her in 14.5 burritos. Or at least they signed a promissory note for 14.5 burritos to get back with that. So I know we're going to, after we end the show, I think, Producer John, are we going to run with the Doodle Cloud video? All right, Doodle Cloud is already going out to Kickstarter to try to fund their project even more, and they are live on Kickstarter now, I believe, or very shortly. They're not live now, but they will be shortly.
Waiting approval?
We're waiting for approval.
Okay, they've submitted to Kickstarter, and they're waiting to be approved. But the video that they show on Kickstarter, that's what we're going to tag on at the end of the show. So stay with us live, and you can watch that on the feed. Any other thoughts on Startup Weekend before we go ahead and close? Congrats to Kerps and Levi and
yes, very much.
Everybody. I don't remember who was all. Rob Jensen, the entire team. Nathan. Who organized it, as well as Shane coming back to facilitate.
Yeah, they did great.
Look forward to seeing Startup Weekend 5 next year here in Des Moines. Well, that is it for today's show. Thanks, everyone, for joining us online and in the chat room. And thanks again to Delta Dental of Iowa for your support. Brian, thank you for joining us today on PrairieCast. Where should people go to find out more about you online?
You can, actually, my first tweet was today before I came on here, and I'll be doing it through iWeek and as well as at South by Southwest. So at Brian C. Waller would probably be the best place.
Your very first tweet was PrairieCast?
Right, yeah.
Right. Welcome to Twitter.
Thank you. This is my first social media webcast, too, so thank you. You made my day.
And then South by this week.
That's
so
right.
You're just jumping right in. All right, Danny, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter at DannyAway, and I apologize in advance for the amount of tweeting I'll be doing about the Creighton Blue Jays over the next month, hopefully into April.
Had to bring Creighton up. Our company almost shuts down during the MVC tournament because 3 people went down to see that. Andy, how about you?
YouMetAndy.com.
I'm at gwood.me. PrairieCast is produced by John Thompson of Evolve. To find out more about his services, go to dmevolve.com. For more on our show, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/PrairieCast. For all the news and culture related to startups on the Silicon Prairie, go to siliconprairienews.com, and we will see you right back here next week. But stick around and watch the Doodle Cloud video. Thanks, everyone.
I'm Matthew, and when I was little, I used to love watching clouds. Imagine what to show those with words, and that was where the idea of Doodle was born. Here at Doodle Cloud, we are building an app that allows families to take pictures of clouds and bring their imagination to life with tracing, stickers, and decorations. We brought this project to Kickstarter because we need more stickers! Yeah, kind of. We need to finish the work that we started at Startup Weekend Des Moines, and this requires development, more stickers, and Hi,